First, I gotta ask you though, is this FeverDev I'm talking to?
Yes, that's me.
Hello everybody, Vigo Shadow here, and welcome to the 50th episode of Indie Saturdays. I am so excited, so please stick around because we actually got to interview an indie game dev at the end of it. So if you stick around, you'll be able to hear that interview at the end. You can look at all the time codes below, but this is going to be a very special episode, and it's going to be formatted a little different than my usual Indie Saturday. So yeah, enjoy. Alright, so now let's answer the main question here. What is Floral Disaffect? So right off the bat, Floral Disaffect is an RPG game made by FeverDev, and I actually pulled up an image here that came straight from their website, and I do like the art that is included and the description. So if we read it here, it says that Servitor's friend Oiki is kidnapped by a nightmare cult. A girl with plants growing out of her offers to help. Seeing as her sisters were also taken, Servitor is part of the Dreamers cult, and Oiki's ultimate dream is to destroy the nightmare cult once and for all. Will Servitor be able to form a team and achieve the dreams that won't stop flowing unendingly in Oiki's mind? So that's actually a very unique way to put it, but we're going to be diving more into the overall lore and story of Floral Disaffect, and then we're going to move on to the gameplay and the mechanics of the RPG itself. Alright, so next let's move on to the story / the overall narrative of the game. So, and the premise. So there are 3 different gods / deities that the characters worship within the game, and so 3 different factions more or less. So we have the worshippers of Flora, Solidarks, and lastly Noctivox. Now to explain each one of them is so you have the worshippers of Flora are all members of flora, plants, creatures, wildlife. Then we have Solidarks, which is a deity for dreamers. So we only see 2 dreamers in the game, which is the main characters, Servitor and Oiki. And then lastly we have the overall villain group, which is the Noctivox. So the predicament that the main characters are in is that the nightmare cultist who worship Noctivox has taken over, and to tribute their god they are sacrificing daughters of Flora. Our main character, Servitor, is a dreamer and worships Solidarks, who despises the nightmare cult and wishes to kill as many members of the cult as possible. The ultimate goal for Servitor is to awaken his god Solidarks. As for Flora, she has stated as for the deity of Flora, she has stated that she is in hiding and only coming out when called upon, so she is not dead. In the beginning, Servitor is helping Mehetable, or that's how I pronounce it. Otherwise, I'm just going to refer to her as Mabel, a daughter of Flora. It is unknown how the 2 of them came together to invade the Nightmare Cultist hideout. However, they both storm the hideout to save the more daughters of Flora and Servitor's companion, Oiki. Oiki is also a dreamer with the same vision and goal as Servitor. The 3 of them make their escape through the Flora Gate and meet Matricaria, or as I like to call her, Maria. With Maria showing us proof that her goddess is alive, Flora, we find a crystal that gives us a bunch of level ups and powers, but we don't actually see Flora, we don't get to actually see her, and it isn't too elaborated on this proof besides the crystal giving us power. Either way, we also save another daughter of Flora that's trapped in the Brave Wilds. Now the Brave Wilds is a place where creatures of Flora have turned and have attacked its own kind. So Noctivox's influence take over all Flora. It was so bad that it took over the creatures, but not the actual daughters themselves. So half of the sisters of Flora were lost due to the creatures going wild. So after saving her, we leave the Flora Gate with the priestess of Flora joining our team that Maria decided to grant us. So we have a fire team of 2 dreamers, Servitor and Oiki, and then we have Mabel and the priestess of Flora joining our team with the ultimate new goal is to destroy Noctivox's water realm. Now, the whole purpose of destroying the water realm will cause like a catastrophe for the cultists, and we'd have more of a chance to eliminate them entirely. So we start going through buildings and hideouts to eventually find the enchantress who protected their hideout. There's not a lot said with the enchantress besides like mocking them and like, oh, I'm gonna kill them, your journey ends here, like that type of stuff. After we defeat her, we are able to advance and eventually meet, we are able to advance and then we eventually feel a Solidarchian aura where a Noctivox lunatic claims they have baited the party with the Somnolith. Now, the Somnolith is an item that can awaken Solidarchs just conveniently and put an end to the Noctivox entirely. The plan was just to destroy the water realm, but they fight the lunatic, and to their surprise, the Noctivox shard, the water realm shard, was sent to aid the lunatic. So that's like direct help from Noctivox himself, or themselves as an entity, because they sensed the danger that was about to happen. Rightfully so, because this lunatic is just willy-nilly just holding the shard to awaken another deity. And how this person has the Somnolith is just beyond me, I'm not sure. But even Noctivox themselves told the lunatic that this plan was way too risky to lure out probably the best fighters to combat the Nightmare Cult with that plan. With the party eventually destroying all the cultists, an overseer, and the shard itself, we were able to obtain the Somnolith, which we were able to make Solidarchs awaken. And when we did that, the entirety of reality itself switched over. The whole universe rewrote history, and then it just became. It just all at once. So, essentially they switched the universe's gods in history itself. So, it's just like, it just becomes weird. So the implications of what happened are unknown, besides we rewrote history, and now Solidarchs is the god. But what really happened? What happened to the land? What happened to all this stuff? Because history was rewritten, did all the events like happen? Who's still alive? We have so many questions that just go unanswered and are kept a mystery at the end, with a sequel mentioned. What happened to the priestess and Mabel are just unknown at this point. Alright, so let's talk about the mechanics of the game and the design. Well, it's an RPG game. It has similar core mechanics of a lot of first-person RPGs. You take turns, there are stats, and core mechanics are very familiar and functional. It becomes more engaging than a typical RPG due to the complexity of this game's magic system. Now, they utilize 3 different unique types of magic, which I really enjoy, which are Nightmare Magic, Flora Magic, and Dreamer Magic. There are other elements that we see in the game, such as your typical ice, fire, wind, water, and lightning as well. I pulled up an image that I made showcasing different types of damage and magic in the game that I've come across. Now, there's probably more that I haven't seen, but this is what I was able to find. I also do know that ashen damage was also a thing, but that was only an item-based attack. So when you have a certain based attack locked behind an item, that's also pretty cool and unique as well. So when I broke it down like this, it goes on deity-based attacks, elemental attacks, and physical attacks. And when I broke it down like this, it made a little bit more sense to me. But when it was time to figure out what enemies were weak to, well, that was confusing. Let me just showcase another image that I made against various enemies. Now, I was just trying to see who was weak to what, and try to make sense of it all, but it just was still pretty confusing. I asked the dev to explain how weaknesses worked, and it went like this according to the dev. Quote, it was dependent on the enemy you're fighting rather than the enemy type. Since most enemies are Nightmare/Noctivian, they couldn't use the typical rock, paper, scissors mechanics. But in the beginning of the game, it contrasts with that statement a little bit, because Servitor says in the first fight, when using Dreamer Magic, he says it's effective against Nightmare cultists. It even explains it like saying this: it's like using rock against scissors. So yeah, in essence, the combat regarding magic and elements are still very much so confusing to me and are not explained in this game whatsoever. It is more of a trial and error and see what works against enemies. I believe fleshing out the reasonings to why certain enemies are weak against certain moves definitely needs to be explained a bit more, as it is a core component to RPGs. Now, another element I noticed within the gameplay is that there is a couple traders. I thought there might not be, because you don't have your typical shop, because in a lot of RPGs you go to a shop, you buy your equipment, you buy your items, or there's like some sort of specialized trader that you find. This one had one trader that you could visit, which was the trader in the Floral realm. You had a limited selection of items. You could buy a total of 3 items and 1 piece of equipment in the shop, and that's all I found. I do not believe. Also, yeah, I do not believe I found an item that revives allies in combat. I did find art candy that revives a whole team only if you're outside of combat, though. Otherwise, your method of revival must fall within characters that can revive using a technique called Soul Lock or Soul Fuse. In my playthrough, only Servitor and Mabel could revive, so if both of them died in battle, I'd have to escape if I can. If not, I'd either have to reload a save, or I'd have to fight without them, missing crucial XP. But another element in RPGs are like inns. So I did not find any inns in this game that I believe. I did look in a lot of places, and I don't think I've seen that. There was a water bucket that healed all MP and HP, so it kind of served like an inn, but I think that was only in one location. As for the equipment menu and the item menu, I found out that certain equipment was compatible with certain members, which I love. I love that. Certain armor and certain pieces only work with certain individuals, and then some you can mix and match, so it just leaves you to, your imagination and really strategizing, which that's the whole core component of a lot of RPGs. Seeing what works best, using certain pieces of equipment. So I think with how much uniqueness there is to the items, like for the equipment and the accessories that you can equip, I think they just nailed it, because there's some certain ones that have a huge drawback, and then there's just a lot of more complexity within the equipment menu, and that's something that you don't normally see in a lot of RPGs. So I really did enjoy that. That was a breath of fresh air, and it really got me thinking and strategizing. As for the item menu, I really did like the abundance of stat boosting items that we found in treasure chests. And when you have stat boosting items in an RPG, you have to really think about where you're speccing your points. So I did love that a lot. So whenever there's stat boosts for items, you really got to think about who you're going to spec your points into. And I think when I did do that, it was great. The last thing I have for the gameplay is pretty much like when you are fighting your enemies, despite the magic system and whatnot, these enemies seem like the combat can either go really bad fast, and then when it does go good, you have to keep a momentum going, because at any point in combat, it didn't matter which enemy I was facing, I always felt that there was definitely a threat. So no battle was safe, because a match can go south so quick if you have certain ailments on you. So I did realize that, and from that point on, I never underestimated any enemy. So if you really like difficult RPGs, then this is definitely the game for you, because I definitely had a struggle, especially that end game boss. Let's talk about that a little bit. Oh man, that was incredibly long. Like, I think I spent at least an hour and a half fighting this end game boss, and I was just praying that I just did not die, because if I died in that sequence, I don't know if I could really pull through and go back into that battle again. So it really gets you thinking. When you have a difficulty with the bar set that high, you have to really be strategizing and knowing what you're doing. So, I do like a challenge, but this game is definitely not for like newcomers of RPGs, because that boss fight was extremely difficult for sure. So yeah, but as a fan of RPGs, I did love it because of the challenge. So honestly, that's all I have for the gameplay and the design. I think it was like wonderful. I really did like the music. I didn't comment about the music that much, but the music is great. I really did love the music.
A lot of variety, a lot of uniqueness in that music and soundtrack for sure.
Alright, so for this indie game, Floral Disaffect, I think I'll give this game a rating of
apocalyptic.
I gave this game this rating because I did enjoy quite a bit of the story with the unique concept, like the groundwork of dreamers, Flora, and the nightmare cultists, all fighting for their beliefs within their faction. This game also has a bit of challenge when it comes to the RPG fights and the equipment and the stuff that you can bring, the items you could use, the stat boosts and stuff, and a lot of the abilities. This makes you all think. It makes you think about the moves you're gonna use before you fight. It really makes you strategize, I think. But there are flaws to this game. So the magic system is my biggest gripe. It's confusing and hard to understand, and it must be explained more to the players so that they can exploit weaknesses of other enemies without having to guess, without having to do trial and error and figure it out. I love the music score and the OST in this game though. I really enjoyed the art style as well for a lot of the enemies, the sprites, and the main characters. So those were all really visually appealing to me. The music I was hearing, it was a variety. Really stellar music score from whoever made the music for this game here. Now, as for the storytelling and the dialogue and the pacing, the pacing felt right in the Flora realm, but then it felt quick near the end of the game in the water realm. A lot of questions were left unanswered and left me guessing. I think the game would benefit greatly from really diving into the characters themselves, making them have a break, go out camping, or diving into a deeper lore about the overall backstory, about how Noctivox took over, or the character backstories themselves, character arcs, something of that nature. I feel there's a lot to explain in the beginning, and then there's a lot to explain at the end. But in the middle, things started to piece together and things did start to make sense.
Alright, so let's get into this next part with the interview with the game dev, FeverDev. Now, if you want to see the full entire interview, I have a separate video that you can see here and one of the title cards. You can click that if you want to see the full interview. Otherwise, you can check out my channel. Otherwise, I'm just going to show you the best moments that I had from that interview. All right.
First, I gotta ask you though, is this FeverDev I'm talking to?
Yes, that's me.
All right, perfect. We're gonna get right into the interview. I know I played your game Floral Disaffect. But first we're gonna talk about the little questionnaire that I have for before we get into the game here. So my first question is, how did your studio begin?
Well, when I was a child, I actually was making games. When I one of the first games that I got really into was called Kodu, but I also did a little bit of Scratch. These are games where you make games, and so I've just been really into the game dev stuff even before I knew about Unity or RPG Maker. But talking about RPG Maker, the first time I really got into game development was after I discovered Yume Nikki, which is, for those who don't know, it's a game about exploring dreams. And when I saw that game and I heard the soundtrack, iconic soundtrack many people probably heard, I got completely obsessed. And I got RPG Maker and I started messing around with Yumaniki, the game files, and I started making games from there, and that's probably it.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the second question. What about some more information about you? You don't have to make it too personal. It's just whatever you're comfortable with.
hmm well, something that many people are surprised to hear about me is that actually I don't actually really play almost any video games, and I also don't watch almost any movies. And but most of what I do, most of the media I consume, I guess you could say, would be music. I listen to just all kinds of music, some like really bizarre stuff, and then more traditional stuff. And I also read and like listen to books, but yeah, I don't really watch any movies or play any games. And so people will, I'm sure a lot of game devs can relate to this. People will approach me and say, wow, this game is really like this other game that I've played. And 99.9% of the time, I'll have no idea what they're talking about.
Oh wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't, it's just a kind of a funny thing. Like, there's a famous passage in Ecclesiastes. There's nothing new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I've discovered that to be very true because I will almost accidentally recreate things from other games, or even like characters will be very similar to other characters, and I'll have no idea that I did that. It's just a complete coincidence, or maybe there's something like maybe I did actually know about some idea or character through osmosis, and I just didn't even realize it, and it just sort of remanifested. But yeah, that's some information that some people may be surprised to hear.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of surprised with that one too. I did not know that you wouldn't like be. I'd feel like if you're a game dev, you'd be kind of like seeing different like elements or like watching different elements of different games and then trying to like implement some like cool features or take inspiration from some of the stuff that you've seen.
hmm I do that from games from like my early childhood. The only other games that I really play are games from like my friends who are also game devs. Those are like
Oh,
the only games, and then occasionally I'll play like a few others, but yeah, it's pretty rare.
mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna go on to this next question here is how is it working with like a studio or a team or collabs that you've done? And then on the flip side, when it's just you, how hard is it being a solo dev?
I don't think I've ever been completely solo because I absolutely love working with all of these talented people that I've met throughout the years. A lot of the motivation and inspiration that I get is from seeing my friends and colleagues uh, and their work. And I love working with people. It's great. And I'm just amazed at how many talented people there are that have somehow found me or I found them. Some of the most talented people are just completely isolated in some random forum on the internet, working hard on this game that they haven't advertised at all. And you might just like randomly encounter them and talk to them, and it's just this incredible experience. But yeah, all of the games that I've made so far have actually been pretty collaborative, and I love it.
Yeah, well, that's awesome to hear. It's nice when you get a good team together and you're able to like kind of have another person to bounce off ideas. Because I know with some devs that are just completely by themselves, I know what can be really hard is them getting the feedback that they need because they don't really have a community or anything to like kind of bounce ideas off of or anybody to play test.
hmm
So I could see where that can get really hard. My fourth question did tie into what was already like my third question, it'd be like, can you tell the audience what it's like working as an indie dev? Maybe like a day to day or like a weekly process or the process that you have.
Yeah, it's kind of changed throughout the years, but for the most part, there's a few things that it's just every time this is how it goes. I'll start a project, and most of the games I've made have been part of a game jam. That's at least where they've started, and it's usually these like rapid bursts of energy, like these. Like I'll just have all these ideas, and I'll just jump in, and I'll just make all of these scenes and all of these characters. and it's not very organized. Throughout my experiences, I've become better organized, but it's all pretty scattered still at the very beginning. And then most of the process after that is piecing everything together. Uh, I'll have these ideas of scenes, and I'll have these ideas of characters, and then I'll have like a rough idea of what I want the story to be about, and the themes, and like the colors and the sounds. Um, and then I'll sort of piece them together afterwards. And since it's a very collaborative effort a lot of the time, I'll be working with people who will they'll design the model, or they'll design the music and the character. And once I see that, once I get that into the project, I'll sort of just know exactly what to do next. And that's probably like a trained thing just from doing it so much that maybe not everyone will get at first, but it's sort of what allows me to actually finish these projects, is just kind of like knowing where to go from just seeing things. That's what it's like for me, and that's how I've been able to get all these games out. But also, it's just a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of working with your friends in voice call for like 40 hours straight. And getting things done right by the deadline. Some of these games I've made, I submitted literally 3 minutes before the deadline. So it's
Wow.
you know how it is. It's pretty crazy.
All right. So my next question would be, would you mind telling us the projects that you have in store or what you're working on currently, maybe besides the Game Jam stuff? Or well, no, that
Yeah.
could be included actually. Sorry.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah. So in a few days, Fever Dream Game Jam's gonna be coming to a close, and I'm gonna make a whole bunch of YouTube videos playing through every single game completely from beginning to finish, which is gonna be crazy because there's 350 participants. We might get a lot of games, and it might take me a lot of time, but I'm still really excited. It's gonna be awesome. So I'm doing that right now. But also, I've been working on a game for quite a while now. It kind of started out a little bit as a game jam thing, and we don't even really have a name locked in yet. But it's probably going to be called Young Disaffects. But I don't know. I shouldn't say probably. It's this game that's currently called Young Disaffects, and it's about these giant beetles that are like the size of a country, and you play as a character that rides in the interior shell of these beetles. And so people will build like cities, or they'll build like houses inside of the shell of this beetle, and the beetle will just crawl across the planet. Some of them travel between planets, and it's going to be this really surreal, really crazy adventure game that is going to be it's going to be awesome. I'm so excited. I don't think people are um, I don't think people are ready for how grand of a scale this one's going to be. And we got some really, really talented people involved, and I'm so excited for that one. So stay tuned for that one. That's going to be a while before that one's out. We might have a demo coming up pretty soon, but we have a lot of stuff to do. So we're working on that. And then I also am just a few days away from finishing this game called Swevens that I've been working on for the past 2 months. Um, and that game is a much smaller scale game. It's a very, very traditional RPG like, and it's this game about a young boy who has these children's toys called Swevens. But the strange thing about these toys is that they're ensouled. And if you recall, there's different factions in Floral Disaffect. There's the
Mhm.
Noctivians, the Solidarchians, and the Flora. This game is about the Noctivians. Well, it's about a boy who's a Noctivian, and the Noctivians, when they kill people, when they destroy an enemy in combat, a lot of the time they'll capture the soul of that person and they'll use it for something later. So the Noctivians have been putting souls in these toys as almost like a gimmick. It's like a thing. It's almost like Pokemon, you could say, like, oh yeah, you have all these like little pocket creatures and stuff. So the main character has these toys, and it's about his adventures with them, and a lot of dark stuff happens, a lot of hopeful stuff happens. A lot of people really like the story, and there's a particular character that everyone seems to totally love. I've gotten more fan art from this character than any other.
Perfect. That's actually, it sounds really good. I like the creative flow and the creative process with some of those things. I'm going to get into some of the features that I've seen in Floral Disaffect that I wanted to talk about too. Um, but yeah, we'll get to that after these few questions here. I got two more. Um, Next question is there an overall message about either the game or in general, like an inspiring message that you'd like to share to the audience?
Or Floral Disaffect specifically?
Yeah, you could do Floral Disaffect, and then like for like indie game developers in general, like an inspiring message that you like to share.
So Floral Disaffect is like one of the main themes and one of the most inspiring messages, I would say, in Floral Disaffect. It's about synergy. It's about the power of friendship and teamwork and aligning your vision. And you can see that in Floral Disaffect by all these moves that are meant to play off of one another and all the different options you have of pursuing like maximum damage combos by uh, working as a team, you know? And I think that is the thing that inspires me most in game development, I think, is when I see these small teams coming together and being able to use their strengths and sort of help each other in their weaknesses. Um, and I think that's sort of the inspiration that inspired me to make that game, but also inspires me every day. If you find your friends and you find your family, you're able to do things that are unbelievable. Like in Floral Disaffect, they're able to destroy the Noctivian cult, all of these crazy feats. In real life, you can do crazy things too. There's a lot of uncertainty in life. There's a lot of disasters and mistakes that people make. But if you're a good friend and you have good friends, you can do anything.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree with that. It was that very well put. Yeah, it's I did enjoy playing the game for sure. So I only have one more question about the game, and then we're gonna get into like some more features that I really really wanted to share and like what I really liked. So last question is like, how big was the studio for the game that you made, or how many people were involved? Like I did see some in the credits, but like what would you like total it up to be, and then how long did this project take? Just roughly, don't have to be an exact.
How long it took? So, well, I made most of it in a very short time, like about a month. And then I submitted the game by the deadline, and I just completely crashed. I took me like a whole week to recover, like not joking. Like I was just completely out of it. I think, yeah, yeah, it was almost a whole week. I think I might have gotten sick too, and I was really sick. So don't go too crazy, guys. Like it's not good for your health. But and then after that, I started polishing, and polishing can take much longer than it takes to make the majority of the game sometimes. And that's probably what happened. I think probably like 3 months of slower paced, steady polishing. It's been a while and I've made a lot of stuff, so I don't completely remember, but it was a long time. And in terms of how many people were involved, about 6, I think. 5, 6, 7 people were all involved. A lot of those are musicians. They made like a few songs. I don't quite remember. I'm gonna be honest. I did
It's
that
all
in
right. It's
2023, so it's been a while.
yeah, for
But yeah,
sure. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next part, which is gonna be kind of like my overall thoughts about playing the game. It did, I know it did take me a while to definitely like kind of have a good sit down and play through it all.
right.
Right, and as you go on, you get better with your craft, and that's for anything. That's for anything. That's for like YouTubers. That's for artists. That's for game devs. It's literally any form of media. You just get better over time. You definitely have a good thing going here with this concept, and I really do enjoy it. I just wanted to thank you for your time. I really appreciate doing this interview, and then I'm going to tell the audience, like, hey, everybody, please check out this game dev's different games that he has in his catalog. I'm going to have a link to these Discord and the Floral Disaffect game into my video here. Thank you all for watching. This is Vigo signing off.